Hello and welcome to the 2020 Archives Bazaar. My name is Susie Norshot and I am a member of the Subject Executive Committee and also co-chair of the Archives Bazaar Planning Committee. We are very excited to welcome you to this first ever virtual Archives Bazaar. For the past 14 years, as many of you know, this event has been held in person, and at past bazaars, I know that we have all enjoyed interacting with each other face-to-face at exhibitor booths in Doheny Library's beautiful Times reading room, and attending presentations and workshops where we can discuss all things archives in LA. This year, we've had to adapt to a new online format, but the program committee and other volunteers from the LAAS subject community have been working hard to bring you a day full of interesting, engaging, and informative presentations, interactive sessions, online exhibits, virtual exhibitor booths, tutorials, and other activities. And I hope all of you have seen this very handy schedule at a glance on this slide, which is available for download on the Archives Bazaar website. This schedule gives you a nice snapshot of all of the day's events, listing all of the live streamed presentations, which begin at 10 a.m., and providing links to other featured content, including links to the basement tapes and home movie days, the virtual exhibitor booths, where you can find a multitude of pre-recorded presentations from LAAS subject members, workshop videos by LAAS subject residents on presentations, workshop videos by LAAS subject residents on topics like conducting collection surveys and digitizing scrapbooks, and the reference room where you can chat with exhibitors who will be available for much of the day to answer questions about their collections and talk about LA history. So I encourage everyone to explore everything the day has to offer. And you can find the full description of the program, participants, and presenter bios on the Archives Bazaar website. And if I could have the next slide. So before we kick off the bazaar, I'd just like to acknowledge several of the individuals who have helped to make this virtual bazaar happen. The members of the program committee listed here, along with those who served on the exhibit committees and coordinated the virtual exhibitor booths and the reference room. Of course, we'd also like to thank our speakers and presenters who will be sharing their perspective on archives, their projects, and their expertise with us today. So without further ado, I'd like to get the ball rolling and give the floor to Lisa Pozis, the LAAS subject coordinator, who will be telling us about a very important anniversary we're celebrating this year. Not only the 15th anniversary of the Archives Bazaar, but the 25th anniversary of LAAS subject. So over to you, Lisa.
Thank you, Susie. And welcome everybody to the 15th annual Los Angeles Archives Bazaar that is all virtual this year for no reasons that need to be explained to any of us. In a few short moments, I will be introducing Alexandra Hontales Adams, who will be going over the online exhibit created to share the quarter-century history of LAAS subject. I usually say that LAAS subject started as a Getty research project in 1995. But one of the things I learned on working on this exhibit with Alexandra and the rest of the USC crew is that influenced by the transformative nature of Los Angeles and pivotal moments of this region, such as the 1992 Los Angeles uprising, LAAS subject became the brainchild of Karen Stokes, who, now retired, was back then the project associate of public programs for the Getty, and once it was materialized, the project manager for the original LAAS subject. Karen sowed the seeds of this consortium that started as a 4-year project examining how narratives of LA will be told and what collections are needed, archive collections in particular, are needed to make sure this telling is diverse, comprehensive, and inclusive. LA subject since has only expanded and continues on as a one-of-a-kind collective working to preserve, archive and share the histories and cultures of the Los Angeles region through grant-funded projects, knowledge sharing, and skill building between members, and public events like the Archives Bazaar that celebrate archives and their importance. To go more into detail about this history, as it is to go in more detail about this history and how it's showcased on the online exhibit, LAAS Subject, 25 Years of Highlighting Southern California Archives, is Alexandra Hontales Adams. She is not only the main architect of this exhibit, she is a former Archives Bazaar volunteer and currently an intern from the Master of Management in Library and Information Science program at USC. And she is finishing her last semester with us. She was originally the intern for the Lost LA series, also a collaboration between KCET and USC libraries, but she pivoted to help LAAS Subject with this anniversary, this very important anniversary online exhibit built on the Scalar platform, which she will tell you now more about. On to you.
There we go. Hi, as Lisa said, I'm Alexandra Hontales Adams, and this morning I will be introducing you to this digital exhibit. You could switch to the next slide. So I was lucky enough to be part of the team that created this new digital exhibit to honor LAAS Subject's 25-year history of preserving, archiving, and sharing the culture and history of the Los Angeles region. We used rare visual materials and interviews with key participants to develop something of value to people who were completely unfamiliar with the organization, as well as lifelong members. Now I'll be showing you some highlights from it. Great, so one of the first main features that you will see on the exhibit is our interactive timeline. You can use the timeline to move through major events and developments in the history of LAAS Subject. You can learn about more current projects like the Archives at Risk Committee and the new collective directory, or you can dig further into the past and look at Monomania LA or the community corridors exhibits. Now, if you can move to the next one. There we go. Now, so as Lisa said, LAAS Subject started in 1995 at the Getty Research Institute. It was the brainchild of Karen Stokes, who saw that there were dozens, maybe even hundreds of private collectors, small archives, as well as big institutions in Southern California that didn't really have a mechanism to communicate more broadly with each other. And even more importantly, the less visible archives tended to be in danger of disappearing or being left behind in the larger conversations about the archival world, best practices, and so forth. Karen recognized that the Getty had the resources to organize everyone and solve this problem. This idea was met with skepticism. Karen says that at one point it was even thrown in the virtual trash, but eventually the powers that be at Getty approved it as a limited run project. So from 1995 to 1999, Karen convened a series of meetings and events to talk broadly about the state of archives and collections devoted to Southern California history. In fact, she held the very first event in the then new Getty Center back in 1997, before it was actually open to the public, and it featured Octavia Butler in conversation with Mike Davis, Hector Tobar, and Carolyn C. The culmination of this project was a printed directory of archives and collections in Southern California, along with a 2-day symposium that was simulcast around the globe. Now, this digital exhibit will allow you to gain insight into the origins of LAAS Subject by perusing the documents and other ephemera from this period, including Karen Stokes' original project proposal, press releases, letters regarding the publishing of Mapping LA, Global Prototype, and more. It also provides photos from the symposium and simulcast. Now, after the symposium, all the work done up to that point was going to wither away, but fortuitously, some ex-Getty staff members had moved to USC libraries and realized its value, and then they arranged for the project and its electronic database to be moved to USC. Since then, the database has had a significant upgrade thanks to the Library Service and Technology Grant from the California State Library. LAAS Subject used those funds to create a new online portal that provides archive members with a platform to make their unique and valuable holdings accessible and connect with the public. The back framework of this new portal allowed community archive specialist Stella Castillo to gather valuable data sets. We can move to the next slide. There we go. Now, Stella Castillo used the data gathered to create this interactive map using Social Explorer. This map is featured in the exhibit. Now, as you can see, there are dark dots. They represent the original members in the 1990 directory, and then the stars represent current members. There's a little slider in the middle, so if you slide it one way, you can go to the next slide. There we are. You can look at just the directory members, and if you slide it the other way, you can see the current members. This is on the website, so you can go into more detail, but that's just basically showing you how it works. So this is so looking at this really can show you how LAAS Subject has grown and evolved in terms of their membership. Of course, its evolution isn't just about volume. This egalitarian consortium is continually discovering new ways to achieve its aims and meet its members' needs through various initiatives and programs, including the Archives Bazaar. Go to the next slide. There we go. So the Archives Bazaar is very much the logical extension of LAAS Subject's mission. It increases the visibility of archives and fosters collaboration. It showcases a plethora of LA-based archives and collections, gives researchers and history enthusiasts a chance to consult with local experts and explore diverse collections that tell stories of LA. It also has educational programming and offers activities for professional archivists, hobbyists, and just curious members of the public, including informal workshops on physical preservation, Wikipedia edit-a-thons, and special networking events. In addition to fostering collaboration through networking, the Archives Bazaar also frequently includes collaborations between LAAS Subject and grassroots organizations, including the California chapter of the National History Day program, the Los Angeles Preservation Network, and Home Video Day. When I was speaking to different people while making this project, multiple people kept describing the Archives Bazaar as a kind of found family reunion. So if that's the case, then this digital exhibit serves as kind of a family photo album with a dash of genealogy thrown in there. You can flip through the programs, posters, and photos that will pique your curiosity and or trigger your nostalgia. So if we go to the next one. Oh, yes, sorry, that was the wrong one. So yes, there's some of the photos that I arranged. Yes, we've got photos from 2010 all the way up to the last Archives Bazaar. And we have either a poster or a program from each year. we couldn't get both from each year because a couple of times the posters doubled as programs, but we've got a wide variety. Everything's basically covered. So if we could go to the next one. There we are. So now most of you have probably heard of Lost LA. It's the Emmy award-winning television show co-produced by KCET and hosted by Nathan Masters with research help from Anne-Marie Maxwell. So far, there have been 4 seasons of the show, and each season has used the resources of LAAS Subject Archive members to share forgotten stories from LA. As soon as possible, we'll be working on season 5 of the show. We're in development, and now things are a bit in flux, but it is coming. It has been approved. Now, while each season explores a host of new topics and has plenty of different visual styles and storytelling techniques, the narrative framework is consistent. The narrative of each episode is built around Nathan Masters' archival discoveries. This framework really foregrounds archives and highlights their importance. Another thing that sets Lost LA apart from typical educational television is the Lost LA Curriculum Project. This project is a collaboration between KCET, the USC libraries, the UCLA History and Geography Project, and the Huntington USC Initiative on California and the West. The curriculum project uses Lost LA episodes to present culturally relevant teaching materials centered on local history. These materials turn Lost LA's editorial content into educational resources that promote a nuanced understanding of the region's culturally layered communities and an inclusive historical narrative. Lost LA also embodies LAAS Subject's values by hiring emerging filmmakers. They're really trying to give a big break to the next Ken Burns. We can go to the next slide. So in addition to background information on the origin of the show and how it was inspired and developed, our exhibit also gives you a glimpse into what's going on behind the scenes with the series productions documents. We have documents from all 4 seasons of the show, including the original treatment, which says that each episode will likely be thematically kaleidoscopic, which is just a great phrase that I'm going to try and include more in daily life. Now, these documents are incredibly visual. We have storyboards, but also just the treatments are filled with lots of visuals, and you can really see the amount of thought, creativity, dedication, and work that goes into each episode, even just, before it's even made, just in the pre-production phase. So that's will give you a great sense of what's going on there. We could go to the next. Alrighty, so another initiative of LAAS Subject is the Residency Program. It began in 2014 and is made possible by a generous grant from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. The program is a collective effort from LAAS Subject, CSU Dominguez Hills, CSUN, and the USC libraries. The residency program trains 3 recent MLIS graduates, as well as staff and volunteers at 30 LAAS Subject member archives in skills related to digital collection management and digitization. The residency program provides these residents with diverse learning experiences and work opportunities and a chance to have mentorships and knowledge sharing. Each of the collaborating institutions hires a resident archivist for a 2-year period. That institute serves as their hub site. Then these residents work with select LAAS subject member archives, assessing their digital needs and generating project plans. Now in this, okay, you went through, okay. In this digital exhibit, you can flip through a slideshow of photos documenting the residency program and read about it. We have some of their foundational documents, including grants and also writing by resident archivists and other people writing about them. But the main feature of this section of the exhibit is the Residency Program Map, which is the next slide. There we are. So I developed this. It's a custom Google map, and it shows all the sites where the resident archivists have worked. It's color-coded by hub sites. So you could filter based on hub sites, for example. Yes, you can see, you can click on, which ones you want. If you just want to look at one rotation, one iteration of it, only the people from 2014 to 2015, you can do that, or only the more recent ones. But you can, if you do it by hub site, you can flip to the next slide. There we are. Okay, so we see USC, and then we also have little icons. As you can see, they represent different types of institutions. So you can get a sense of what the institutional breakdown is of this select group. You can also search by resident, and you can dig into the details and look at the individual archives like this. You go to the next one. There we go. Yes, so here, yeah, we've just focused on one resident. That resident just happens to be the only person from that hub site, so it also looks like we're only searching through them. But it is, as you can see on the little legend, it's one person. And you can look at the details if you can move to the next one. Yeah, so as you can see there, you could look and see that one of the sites is the Immaculate Heart Community, which happens to be where my parents met for the first time. And so you can look and then find out more information about them. So this is a fun tool that you can explore and have some fun looking at, and it'll give you a sense of what's going on with the residency program, and also give you a chance to find out what's going on with these different archive members. We have a lot of them, so I'm sure there's some in there that you don't know that much about, so that'll be interesting. Now, if you go to the next slide. All right, so one of the biggest things in our digital exhibit is the interview section. This took a lot of time and was really great. We managed to get some truly amazing interviews. We have an interview with Karen Stokes, who is the founder, and Tyson Gaskell, who is the executive director of planning and communications at USC Libraries. We have an interview with Nathan Masters, the host of Lost LA. We have an interview with Juan Davies, the Chief Creative Officer of KCT, resident archivist Garrett Collins, and a conversation between LAAS Subject Coordinator Lisa Posis and archivist Claude Zachary. So we've got tons of different perspectives, people who can give their unique insight into LAAS Subject, and also who were there during different time periods. So their ideas about it are very different. It was a real honor to get to speak to all these people. They were really amazing, and they really shared a lot. So I would highly recommend going through that. It's filled with lots of little bits of trivia and some really inspirational quotes and moments. So that's definitely a highlight. So due to time constraints, I've only been able to give you a little taste of the exhibit. So on behalf of the whole team, I would welcome you to explore further and enjoy. It's a living document and it's there for you to explore and learn. Now, our next speaker is Alejandra, Gata. She is a new member of the LAAS Subject Executive Committee and a co-chair of the Archives Bazaar Planning Committee. She is also the Associate Archivist / Librarian at the Autry Museum and has participated in past Archives Bazaars during her time as the archivist at the Center for the Study of Political Graphics. She will be presenting the digital exhibit, When I Think of Home, Images from LA Archives, featuring items from LAAS subject member collections.
Thank you, Alexandra. And thank you so much for covering the history of LAAS subject. It's been really great to learn a little bit more myself. I'm here to present about the digital exhibit that LAAS subject members contributed to in commemoration for this big anniversary. It is the first digital exhibit in sort of the vein of History Keepers, which in the past has been done as a partnership, usually between the California Historical Society and LAAS subject, which includes people and objects that tell the story of LA. To get to this exhibit, by the way, if you scroll down on the page that you're currently watching this event on, you'll see the links to both exhibits, which you can just click and it'll take you directly to the exhibit. So for this exhibit, we have to thank Lisa Bosas for coming up with the amazing name, When I Think of Home, and the theme of home was a prompt that we gave to LAAS subject members to think about what objects in their collections fit into the general theme of home. So in the end, we ended up coming up with a few focus themes. So LA City as being home to a lot of firsts, migration to Los Angeles, the community and cultural enclaves of LA, LA architecture and landscapes, and historic home museums. And we had so many submissions. It was great. We had over 50 member collections submitting items. We did limit it up to 3 per member, and most folks submitted 3 items. So this exhibit is super rich in terms of objects and really interesting stories. We had photographs, we had some prints, some documents and oral histories. And the exhibit will be up hopefully in perpetuity. The hope is that people interested in LAAS subject and maybe students, professors, teachers will be able to use this exhibit in their classrooms. Hopefully it will serve as an introduction to LAAS subject and also LA archives and collections across the city. We hope that it will be useful to them and that the LAAS subject members enjoy the exhibit that we worked so hard to put together. What you see on your screen right now is the home page of the exhibit. And if you go to the next slide, we'll see it's unfortunate because it's a little difficult to show in screenshots, but we had some wonderful help from USC folks to create this looped homepage. So if you go to the exhibit and watch the homepage, it will change from day to night and back to from night to day in a like 15-second loop. So if you go back a slide, you can see, there you go. Obviously on the page, it's a little bit slower, but I, really suggest you take a look at it. It's really fun to look at. If you go back to the next slide, please. And then the next one. So this is the first page. The way that Scalar works is you can travel the exhibit through different paths. So if you saw on the home page, there was a blue button at the bottom where you could click to go into the introduction. And this is the first page you'll see. At the top left-hand corner, there's a little menu bar. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see it expands into a menu, so you can flip through different paths. Can we see the next slide, please? There you go. So you see all the different pages in the exhibit. So you can jump around and see all the different themes and subjects. And it shows you also that we have a few widgets at the end, which are really fun to look at. But this is one way to navigate the exhibit in case you end up getting lost or you want to go back to a different page. The menu bar will always be on the top left-hand corner. So if we go to the next slide. So this is what you would see if you scroll down to the bottom of that intro page, and you can see there's also a table of contents there, which gives you the different themed subject or themed chapters of the exhibit. So you can click on those again to jump around a little bit, but you can also click on begin with LA first. So the blue button at the bottom will navigate you through the exhibit sort of on a structured path that our subcommittee created. So if we go to the next slide, one of the features of the exhibit at the very end is a timeline. So what we did is we took all of the items and used the dates provided by the organizations that submitted them to create this timeline, so you can scroll through and see all the objects based on the dates that they were made. So at the bottom of the page, there's a few instructions in terms of how to navigate the timeline, but you can zoom in and zoom out and then just click on the arrow on the right to go through them. If you're on a tablet, you can just swipe through, but this is an interesting way to look at the submissions in sort of a different way. If we go to the next slide. So the other visualization we were able to do was in a map form. So with items that we received that had geographical coordinates, we were able to map them on this Google map. So you can zoom in and see, if you click on the little dots, it will expand and show you the object that it's associated with. And so it just gives you a different way to visualize the exhibit. Can I get to the next slide, please? So the other page that we included is the contributors page. Since we had so many LA subject member organizations participating, we definitely wanted to give users a way to sort of go through the different organizations. And so this is just the top of the page. It's in alphabetical order. So if you scroll down, you'll see all the different organizations that submitted items along with the items that they submitted. So this is a great example of items that were all videos. If you click on them, they expand into a separate window, and you can play oral histories. And then if you continue scrolling down, you just come across the different organizations with their contributions. We can have the next slide, please. And our last page is our acknowledgements page. So we definitely wanted to thank all the LA subject members for submitting their items, for their patience and understanding as we navigated this new format of doing an exhibition and also doing it in Scalar, which is something I had to learn on the job. And I definitely wanted to thank the exhibit subcommittee for their dedication and hard work. Their names are listed there. I can't thank them enough. We met weekly to go through this and work through this together. So that was a really, a lot of dedication on their part. I also wanted to thank Curtis, Lakita, and Nico from USC for their assistance and all the work they did to make the Scalar exhibit possible. They really did a lot of the background work to make sure that the exhibit looked really great and had these interesting features. We did our best to try and make sure that it was as informative as it was great to look at. So I hope you enjoy. And again, to get to the exhibit, if you just scroll down the page, where the Archives Bazaar page, you'll see the 2 links to the exhibit. We hope that this exhibit will stay on the website for as long as possible and be useful to researchers. We did make sure that all the objects that were used in the exhibit had notes to the contributors. So if anyone has questions about a particular object, they can contact the archive or collection to get more information, especially considering copyright concerns and uses. But if you have any questions whatsoever, please let us know, and I hope you enjoy the exhibit. I didn't want to show you any of the pages just in case. I hope I'll leave that up to you to explore on your own. But in the meantime, I will go ahead and introduce Nathan Masters, which Alexandra explained previously. Nathan is a writer, Los Angeles historian, and host of LAAS LA, a public television series about Los Angeles history. He manages the public programs at the University of Southern California Library. So take it away, Nathan.
Sorry about that. You'd think I'd know how to Zoom by now. So thank you so much, Alejandra, and congratulations on the exhibit. I really can't wait to dig into it. And I also want to offer my congratulations to Alexandra on the LAAS subject exhibit. And I want to say, so she said she was part of a team that put this together, and I think she was being modest here. I mean, there was a team helping her out, but she really deserves authorship over this exhibit, and I feel great that, or relieved more like that she was able to take part in this, because we brought her on from the LAAS program to work, as she said, on the 5th season of LAAS LA, and then well, the viral epidemic happened, and so we pivoted, and she was able to pour all of her research skills and expertise into this amazing exhibit that I think will really have an enduring value for anybody who wants to learn about LA's subject. So I want to, I also want to, yeah, I do want to mention, and I know Alexandra already mentioned this, that the LAAS LA is temporarily on hiatus, but we do hope to get back to work on the 5th season as soon as circumstances allow. But for me personally, I'm actually really looking forward to this year's Archives Bazaar. Usually around this time of year, we are putting the finishing touches on the episodes, or I'm presenting the new season at the Archives Bazaar. That's usually what happens. This time I get to kind of sit back and really take it in and enjoy the Archives Bazaar. There's a lot in store. And I've been thinking, I've also had a chance to think about the public value of the Archives Bazaar. And there's this pernicious and persistent slander against Los Angeles that you're probably all familiar with, that Los Angeles has no history. And I really think I've never quite understood that strain of thinking. I mean, I know there are many explanations for it. LA is this place of reinvention, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I've never really understood it myself. But I know that the antidote to that is the Archives Bazaar. Normally every year you'd come into the library, and spread out before you is the proof that LA does have a history. In fact, every year I think we struggle to fit in as many exhibitors as we can, and I think that the same is true this year. If you look at the schedule is just packed with sessions, with workshops, and it really is yet another struggle to fit in all of this history into a 12-hour day, right? That's a long event, and yet it really is a challenge. So I guess I want to just sort of reiterate that the schedule is bifurcated or trifurcated, is that a word? In some ways. So there are simultaneous events. There are these interactive sessions going on at the same time as online exhibits, at the same time as the home movie day, the basement tapes. There are things going on at all times, and I know I'm going to have trouble choosing between things, and I suspect that many of you will too. So I'd like to introduce to you the coin. I don't have to tell you what to do with that. But there's really so much to explore today, so much to discover, epidemic or not. So I encourage you all to go out and explore all that there is, and embrace the truth that LA really does have a history.